Sorry about that. I had to go out because I had to reset the chat settings so that I can send you stuff through the chat. It's kind of important for today. Uh, but I think we're just about ready to begin. Welcome to you all to the second session. So here is today's material. We're doing the reading paper. We'll have a quick overview of reading sub-skills, a review of reading sub-skills. We'll have an overview of the IELTS reading paper. We'll look at the types of reading tasks that test takers will encounter. We'll have a short part on dealing with multiple choice questions and some general ideas about teaching reading skills. Okay, just going to take the attendance by taking a screenshot of the participants here. Taken. Would be nice if people could turn on their cameras. It's not obligatory if you think it's going to affect your Wi-Fi, but okay, so share that with you. That's today's menu. Let's start with reading skills. Here we have a definition of reading from Mr. Scott Thornbury. It's a receptive skill, but the fact that it's receptive does not mean it is passive. Reading is an active, even interactive process. Readers bring their own questions to the text, which are based on their background knowledge, and they use these to interrogate or ask questions about the text, modifying their questions and coming up with new ones according to the answers they get. And this is from his classic A to Z of ELT from 2006. Now, these are probably the most well-known sub-skills, and they're probably the most ones that are most relevant for IELTS. Skimming, scanning, reading for detail. Can anyone give a definition of what skimming is? Anyone hazard a guess?
I think I could help.
Go on.
Well, skimming is when you're actually going through an article and just looking to see what it's about. You're just skimming basically general information about the article, maybe what it's about, the topic, maybe who wrote it, what's the idea of the topic. But we don't really concentrate on any details. It's just a quick overview of what it is, of what's there, the content, what it's about.
Right.
Scanning is when you're actually scanning for a particular piece of information.
Yes.
And when you're reading for detail is when you're actually trying to get details out of a specific topic, whether depending on a documentary or whatever, you're trying to find specific information about a person, a thing, an item, an invention, or whatever.
Right. Those are pretty good definitions, Jose. Yes. Skimming Really, as the name suggests, it suggests moving your eyes lightly over a text, um, looking for the general, right? Whereas scanning is like you're moving quickly again, but looking for pieces of data. They could be names, they could be years, they could be prices, right? Reading for detail is more about decoding from the sentence level to maybe the paragraph level, right? So scanning is like individual words, whereas reading for detail, sometimes confused with scanning, right? Or reading for specific information, because reading for detail is more about processing the ideas in the text, you know, at a very close level. Now, can you name any other reading sort of reading skills? I don't know. I don't want to use that because it says reading tasks. No. Can you think of any other reading sub skills that maybe not used on the IELTS, but we may want to develop in a reading lesson?
Yes, I know another one. So, for instance, when you try to understand words by context, it might be like identify words by context.
Uh-huh.
Um, and also understanding like the general ideas and the specific ones.
Okay, but although isn't that skimming? Any other ideas? What about extensive readings? No one heard of that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. And then there's
Yeah.
also reading for fun when there's people that just read for fun, so they're not particularly, even though you could say that sometimes all three skills are, for example, when you're reading a novel, you could apply all three skills. Sometimes you want to go ahead and what's up the next chapter about or whatever. Sometimes you go back, get some specific information, and other times you look for details, descriptions, stuff like that. Maybe explanations, different items, maybe budget. It's also related with or maybe a particular topic. Maybe we're concentrating in aviation or medicine or whatever. So there's different types of
Right.
topics, different types of readings.
I think it might be useful for you to have the access to the TKT glossary, in case you need to refer to any of this terminology. But I'm just going to give you a quick quiz using this word wall. Um, I'll share it with you in via the chat in a second. Okay. Is it full screen? How about that? That's better, isn't it? Yeah. Get a bit bigger. Okay, so oh, sorry. Couldn't get it quite to work as I want it to. There we go. Right about this. It's either very big or very small. It's not working very well. Try again. Anyway, let me put it into the chat and you can have a go at this yourself. Match some of the terminology. Can you just confirm that you received it? Okay. So the idea is that we drop each term into its definition. So reading for gist, or sorry, skimming would be to understand the general meaning of a text without paying attention to its details. But actually, that would probably better that one to read a text quickly to get a general idea of what it's about, because listening or reading for gist would be that one. Now, when we're listening, it's called listening for gist. So that's the listening equivalent of skimming, right? Let's just check those. Yes, those are correct. Now, uh, scanning, which one would that be? That will be read a text quickly to pick up specific information. Now, what one person here mentioned reading from, did you sing meaning from context? Didn't you? So which one would that be? How about this one? Guess the meaning of an unknown word by using the information in a situation or around the word. Uh, Not around the word, not world, to help. we confirm our answers? Okay, I'm going to share that with you again so you can refer to it. I'll share it through the chat so you can refer to it if you need to during the session. There we go. And okay, so you all have access to the word wall. You can play it at your own speed as well. So, can you name any types of tasks on the IELTS reading test? Which may or may not use these sub-skills. Headline, says Maria Antonia. So is matching headlines to paragraphs, that sort of thing? Yeah?
Yes, that one.
Just to clarify, by test, you mean question types?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go for true, false, and not given.
Oh, okay. All right. Any others?
Like when you have to write the idea with no more than 3 words, like to paraphrase the idea.
Yes, like short answers. Yeah.
Labeling a diagram.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
You have matching features. You have matching features is when you have like statements or something like that, and you list possible answers. Let's see, what else do we have? Writer's points of view.
Yeah.
Hmm. Note and summary, summarizing. There's like 10, if I'm not mistaken, 10 or 11.
Great, yeah. And Arnold says flowchart completion for academic reading. Yeah, at a minimum, you probably want to mention these: multiple choice, true or false, matching, gapped text, and proofreading. Now, let's have a look at the masterclass advice then for the reading exam. See what they recommend we do. Okay. So here's a look at the reading paper and the different parts. So academic, 60 minutes, those 3 sections, 40 questions, same length for general training. All the materials used in IELTS test were originally designed for a non-specialist audience and are of general interest. important to remember. That means you don't have any specialist knowledge. You don't have to have any specialist knowledge to do well in the test. In the academic, passages are in the three sections are written in a variety of styles: logical argument, description, or narrative. Now, in the academic, there's between 2,200 to 2,750 words to read. It's quite a lot. In general, so a difference with the general training is that it has a different objective to the academic reading test. Its objective is to test language in a workplace or work training context, such as applying for a job, using workplace facilities, or staff development. All right. It doesn't say here how many words in total it is, so I'm just assuming it's around the same as the academic. So it's all about testing your reading skills, not testing your knowledge. So there's a range of question types in the reading papers for both academic and general training. These ensure that the candidates are being tested on a variety of skills, and these skills can be characterized by the terms scanning, and reading for detail. Key purpose of these skills is to improve your reading speed and efficiency. So, just a reminder, skim reading, reading for general gist or the main idea, reading extensively for the main purpose or content of the text. It's a skill we often do in our first language. We don't read every word or sentence, so get your students to practice doing it when they read in English. Scanning is to locate a specific piece of information, and reading for detail is intensive reading, but they will only ever have to read a part of a passage in detail, right? And this brings us to a common mistake. In the reading part of the test, reading the whole text in detail instead of first reading the questions. So we should always read the questions first to find out what we have to do. If they have to match headings to sections of the passage, read the headings first so that they can focus on the main ideas they need to look for. Some candidates make the mistake of reading to try to understand every word. So that's about 900 words in the reading passage. In fact, they may only need to skim read the text to answer 6 questions, such as matching headings to paragraphs, and then read just 300 words, the last 2 paragraphs in detail, to do a gap fill task with 7 questions. As I said before, you don't need to be a specialist on the topic. If the text is about sharks, They don't have to be a marine biologist to get all the answers. The IELTS question paper production process is very strict and is trialed extensively before any questions go live. No candidates will be disadvantaged, no matter what their background is or what they have studied. So that's why we can say with confidence, IELTS tests your reading skills, not your knowledge. All right, question types. We kind of talked about those a little bit. Let's work on it a bit more now. So there are 40 questions based on 3 reading passages with a total of 2,200 to 2,750 words. Familiarize your students with the full range of question types used as they test different skills. Now, the answers come in the same order as the questions for most of these questions. The ones with the asterisks, the little stars. So this helps them to find where to look for the right answers. So we've got multiple choice, short answer questions, sentence completion, notes, summary, diagram, flowchart, table completion, labeling a diagram, classification, matching, choosing suitable paragraph headings from a list, identification of the writer's views or claims, and those might be yes, no, or not given. Identification of information in the text, true, false, or not given. That's what NG means. No. Question: do you read magazines or newspaper articles? How do you decide which articles to read? Do you use the heading? Do you use the photos? Do you use subheadings? Just asking about your practices. How do you normally read? How do you decide when you pick up a newspaper or magazine, right? I don't know about you, but I just kind of flick through the headlines and often use the pictures as a guide to decide whether I want to read further.
I think it depends more on the mood you're in,
Oh,
depending on what you're, where you are. I guess that's also a factor that you take into account when you're going through. The problem is today it's kind of hard to get newspapers and flyers since everything is digital. I mean, it's
right.
to get a newspaper, at least where I live, it's hard to get newspaper even, to use for packaging or whatever. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
but
hard.
even with online articles though, they usually have headlines, don't they? And those often guide you to whether you want to read it or not. And then pictures and captions, and sometimes the first paragraph if you read the first paragraph, you can usually decide whether you want to read further.
Yeah, maybe a picture also.
Mm.
Regularly, the two first lines.
Yeah. You usually read the first two lines.
Yes. And
Yeah.
if they're of my interest, I keep on reading, but if not, you just flip it.
Yeah. So then once you have decided what to read, do you read it quickly or in detail?
That depends. Well, mood, interest, perhaps something about what is happening nowadays,
Yeah.
or yes. But you know, I have noticed about the IELTS exam, those are kind of familiar texts, are about technology, about education. I've seen some, and that's good. I consider them, they're interesting,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
The point is when you have to design, for instance, the headings. I think that is the most complicated thing, right? So when you have to match the sentence endings, matching headings, and matching information. I think that matching, because that's tricky.
Right, yeah. And that is like a gist reading skill, isn't it? Matching headings to sections, because it focuses on what we call the top-down reading process. We're looking at the bigger picture before we look at the details. So let's consider predicting. What activities can you give to students to help them predict the context? Oh, actually, this is about this is actually about the IELTS exam itself. So one thing we're going to learn about is that we can use the question stems to predict the context. Right? Then having predicted the context, we can then use skimming and scanning processes to then find the answers quickly. Right. So expert readers usually use the following strategies when they have to read fast. So we can predict the passage by reading the heading and subheading. And this will help us to contextualize the topic of the passage. There is no need to skim the passage at this stage. We just need the context to what we call raise schemata, or activate our background knowledge about the text. After that, the reading skills that students will use will depend on the type of question. So it could be skimming, scanning, or reading for detail. This will become clearer when we look at specific examples. Let's have a look at main idea questions. Oops. So main idea questions come in two types. Type 1 is like, what is the writer's opinion or attitude? And sorry, that should say type 2. Type 2, what is the main point in paragraph? And type 3, sorry, there are 3 types, is pick from a list. So choose 2 options to answer the question. Now, the procedure here is to locate the paragraph and skim it. Answer the question without looking at the options, and use your answer to help you choose the right option. Now, do the following statements agree with the information given in the paragraph? Right, true, if the statement agrees with the information. False, if the statement contradicts the information, or not given if there's no information on this. Remember that the statements will not be expressed in exactly the same way as in the text, so look for key words in the statements and find similar words or phrases in the text. With the related question type, identifying the writer's views or claims, the tip is that, remember, no means that the statement contradicts the writer's opinion, so it can't be right. Not given means that there is no information about the writer's opinion in the text, so the statement may or may not be true. Rosa, could you read out the first statement here? Number 1.
First paragraph, right?
Where it says Aboriginal Australians.
Aboriginal Australians are descended from the inhabitants of Africa.
Good. And number 2?
Ancestors of Aborigines settled in Australia about 80,000 years ago. And number 3, Aboriginal Australians are the most genetically diverse race in the world.
Great. Now, so what do you think? Number 1, is it true, false, or not given? And where can you find the answer?
I would say true.
It is indeed true. Yeah. And look, there it is in the first sentence and first half of the second sentence.
Yes.
Oops. Okay, so the second one, gone too fast. Ancestors of the Aborigines settled in Australia about 80,000 years ago. Is that true? Number 2. False or not given? Anybody?
That one is false because it says 50,000 years ago.
That's right. No. Then number 3, I've given the game away, is not given, right? But can anyone explain why?
Perhaps because of the world culturally, because they say there is between much more cultural diverse races, right? But they are talking about genetically, and they don't speak about that. They they don't mention that.
Uh-huh. That's right, yeah.
Well, one is superlative. I mean, if we're looking at Aborigine or Australians are the most, and when you look at the sentence, it's not really saying there is a greater genetic diversity, but it's not the most. In other words, if we look at the superlative in the question, we don't find a superlative in the answer.
Wow, can that be a key?
Well, look at the most. Aborigine, or at least number 3, what I'm seeing here, it says that it are the most genetically diverse. And when you read the sentence, it doesn't say anything about being the most. It just says there's a greater.
Or much
That's
more?
comparative. That's comparative.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look at the
point.
much more you have there, much more culturally diverse races there.
Yeah, but that's just additional information as to what we're looking at.
Uh-huh.
The question is most genetically. That's what we got to concentrate
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and
And if we go,
it's not
yeah,
mentioned, is it?
there's no
Uh-huh.
mention of a superlative form, so automatically not given.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so tip. What should students look for? Well, synonyms. That would settled in Australia means arrived in a single migration to Australia. But there are distractors. Watch out for those. Like genetic diversity does not mean the same as culturally diverse.
Yeah.
Hmm? Okay, other general advice. So always advise your students to start by reading the questions. Then decide which reading skill is being tested. Skimming, scanning, or reading for detail. Only then go to the reading passage. When reading, don't be put off by words that they don't know the meaning of. Try to work out their meaning from the context, the surrounding words. Recommend reading any headings, titles, or subtitles first. Look out for footnotes with definitions of any technical terms. These could be in the form of labeled illustrations, like hieroglyphics in a passage about early writing systems. Remind them that there is no extra time allowed for completing their answers on the answer sheet, unlike the listening part of the test. So, answers should be filled in directly on the answer sheet. Now, if they're doing the paper-based, it's in pencil, right? But in the computer delivered, they have to enter their answers on the screen. And they have to answer 40 questions in 60 minutes. Advise them to answer the questions they find easier first, and then go back and to any unanswered questions if they have time at the end. Never leave a blank on the answer sheet. It's always better to guess. Now, if they want to get a 6 or above on the general training, now they need to get 30 out of 40, right? If they want to get a 7 on the general training, they need to get 34. Now, out of the academic reading, if they want to get a 6 out of 40, they need to get 23. If they want to get a 7, they need to get 30. So, yeah, it depends on which test format they take. You know, how many correct answers they get will take them to the 6 or the 7. They can mark the question papers, write on them if it's if the paper based, because the examiner doesn't look at the question papers. In the computer delivered IELTS, there is a highlighting function they can use to highlight the text. So other points, sometimes they need to note the number of words allowed in their answer. So need to pay attention to that. Don't worry about words they don't know. Unusual words will be explained within the text. If the word isn't explained, it isn't important. Yeah, so move on. Don't waste time on any one question they're having trouble with. 1 mark for each right answer, no penalty for wrong answers. Any doubts so far before we move on to do an IELTS task from the IELTS reading exam?
I think no so far.
No so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Go on.
So when the students are writing the answers on the answer sheet, they usually write in lowercase, but I am suggesting to do it everything in capital letters. What do you think is more convenient, just in case they make mistakes with proper names?
Interesting point. Yeah, it's difficult to say without an example. Probably punctuation does make a difference. Yeah. If it's a name of a, I don't know. It may, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It may make a difference. Yeah, when they have to answer, give short answers. So just pay close attention to the instructions. All right, and if it does ask for, it probably will say that punctuation does make a difference. So in the paper, right? So they should pay attention to that. See if you.
Maybe I didn't make myself understood. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that when they are writing the answers, they do everything like in lowercase. So, what do you suggest? To keep on writing in lowercase or to write everything in uppercase to have
Well,
correct marks?
well, it's difficult to say without seeing the instructions on the paper, isn't it?
Mm, I thought it was like a general thing you could do.
Well, something I know, sorry,
It's
Go on.
okay.
something I have read in that is in the key exam is in the paper base, the recommendation is to write in uppercase because of the one that is checking the test, it's easier for them to check the test, right? While in the computer base, you must write uppercase and lowercase, and it doesn't have any difference. But is recommendable there. And also in there, in the paper base state, write the answers in capital letters.
Ah, okay, lovely. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, I hope that answers your doubt. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an activity from general training, and it's reading task type 1. It's a multiple choice activity. Right, and so I'm going to send it to you via the chat. There we go. Now, what's the difference between these types of multiple choice questions? So you can see example 1 here, example 2, example 3, and example 4. It's regarding the number of correct answers. But also there's a difference in the type of reading skills that are involved. So have a look at those. You can post your answers into the chat. How many possible answers are there in example 1? Shall I nominate someone?
Number one, I think.
1. Yeah. There's one possible correct answer, isn't there? Example 2.
Choose two letters.
That there are multiple answers, but only 1 mark, right? So you have to choose 2, right? But you only get 1 mark for that.
Do all of them have only one mark?
Let's see. Yes. Although, no, look at number three. Um, Here in three, there are multiple answers and 1 mark for each. Yeah. It doesn't say that, but there in number three, there are multiple answers. So three of them. So you get 3 marks if you got three correct. Right. And what about example 4?
Only one?
There's only one, right? But it's a different type of reading skill, isn't it? It's a reading for gist. Yeah, reading for the general idea. Yeah, that's a typical gist task is choose the most suitable title for the text. Yeah. So to do that, they need to have a general idea of what the text is about. Yeah, so there you can see we have different multiple choice question types. Uh, I'm going to ask you to look at the reading text now. And the title isn't given. That's deliberate. I'd like you to please look at the first few words of each paragraph in order to find out in general what the text is about. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And once the 30 seconds is up, I'd like you to write in the chat what you think the text is about in general terms. All right, so 30 seconds starting now. All right, so Maria Antonia says greenhouse gases and the effects on the environment. All right. And that was reasonable, isn't it? Global warming, negative impact of coal on the environment. Oh, okay. So it's interesting the differences there because Arnold chose negative impact of coal, whereas Antonia chose greenhouse gases. Obviously, they're related, but they're different perspectives, aren't they? Yeah, quite different perspective. Now, going to give you a task that I've made using Google Forms. I don't know if any of you teach exam preparations online. I teach academic English and I use these types of tools quite a lot because I teach them online. One of the nice things about Google Forms is you can like take a picture of the text and insert it into the app and then have the questions underneath, you know, like this. Can you all confirm that you have received it? So you've got the text in PDF, and you've also got the text here on the Google Forms. So we'll try and do this sample task, according to the recommended procedures. So remember, to save time on the reading paper, you must not read every word or try to understand all the text. So what reading skills should we use? Going back to what we looked at earlier at the start of the session on those first PowerPoints. Skimming, yes, says Abigail. And also scanning, right? Skimming and scanning to find the answers, right? That's what we do to find the answers. Then followed up by reading in detail. No, predicting, yes, and some predicting as well. We'll look at how predicting comes in. Right? No, with multiple choice questions like this, we need to skim and scan for information relating to the question stem. Now, can you see the question stem in number 1? Grace, can you help us locate the question stem? Grace, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you see the question stem in number 1? And read it for us, please.
And I'm trying to, I'm gonna read it here, but I'm trying to open the document. Yes, thank you for zooming in. So it says the global increase in greenhouse gases has been attributed to.
Right.
Yes.
So that is what we call the question stem. Yeah. And it's the question stem is the part of a question that comes before the answer choices. So let me put that definition into the chat for you because you'll find it useful. Question stem is the part of a question that comes before the answer choices and asks the question itself. It sets up the context and provides a clear task for the reader. Right? So with multiple choice questions, you need to skim and scan for information related to this question stem, like global increase, greenhouse gases has been attributed to. But not the answer choices, as these are often distractors. So I'd like you to read, please, skim read all the question stems quickly. And which question is different and why? Which of these question stems is different from the others? As one is not quite like the others.
I don't know,
Somewhat
probably
different.
number 6.
Number 6, why? You're right, but why?
Because the other questions they ask for like specific pieces of information throughout the test. Well, the other is more like, well, based on the information, what title will you give to the text?
Right. That's quite right, actually. So 6, there is a difference there, and the difference is, yes, that it requires an overview of the passage, and there is no question stem in number 6. Huh? It's kind of different. Now, I'd like you to focus up on number 1, question number 1, and cover up the I know it's difficult to do, but cover up the answer choices. To do that, we could cover up those answer choices now. Black them out like that. There we go. Can you think of how else this term global increase and the verb phrase been attributed to? How could that be expressed differently? Global increase. How could that be expressed differently? Using different words.
But like taken from the text directly, or
Before you read the text, are there any words? Is there a synonyms? Can you think of any synonyms or reformulations of those words? Global increase, we could say worldwide rise, right? Worldwide rise. And has been attributed to, could be might be due to. No?
Named on.
Has been blamed on, yeah. Good. All right. I'd like you to look at number 2, 3, 4, and 5 and see if you can do the same. Perhaps you could type your answers into the chat. So, proportion of all greenhouse gases created by coal is approximately. So, instead of proportion, you could say maybe amount or percentage. And instead of created, you could say emitted from coal burning. Yeah. How about 3? Current research aims to increase the energy producing efficiency of coal. You could say coal might be made more efficient by. For number 3. How about number 4? Any suggestions? Again, cover up the options. Just focus on the stem. Grace, you said fabricated. Which one were you referring to there?
For the one that talks about created.
All right, yes. Fabricated, created. Yeah, not very,
I was
not
thinking
very
about
common in
produce.
English, though. Not very common. Produce probably is more common as in English, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And number 4 could be new clean coals may generate power. More than ordinary coal. Coal, not cola. And number 5. Now, there could be a grammatical change here. Maybe changing from the active to the passive. What do you think? Could be something like dust. Can be we don't have to use control. It could be reduced. Hmm. All right. So if you encourage your students to reformulate or think of synonyms for words in the text, that can help them to predict what's actually going to come up in the text itself when they have to read it. Now, I'd like you to now skim and scan the text until you find the part with the answer in it. So what do you think, number 1, which part of this text is number 1 going to be found in?
First paragraph.
Yeah. And 2, probably second paragraph. Yeah. 3, and
Third
it's about the
paragraph.
it's going to be third or fourth paragraph. Question 4.
Per paragraph.
Yeah. And 5. It looks like the penultimate paragraph, doesn't it?
6-1.
Yeah. Yeah, where it talks about dust levels. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, now. So that's the procedure. You can now uncover the options. Read them all and choose the one which they think is the best fit. You must read carefully, as there may be two options that are very similar, but one is more accurate than the other. There may be just one word that distinguishes the two and makes one a better answer than the other. Mm. All right, so I'm going to give you just 5 minutes to answer this, if you haven't done already. And then I'm going to ask you to submit. And I'll put you into breakout rooms and you can compare the answers. So a maximum of 5 minutes. All right, before you submit your answers, I'd like you to compare your answers in the breakout rooms. You'll be just a few minutes, compare your answers, like three minutes should be enough. Let's make it 4, just in case. Don't submit your answers yet, right? Just see if you've got similar ideas before you submit.
Hey, Willibaldo.
No, please submit your answers. We can check how well we've done. We've got 9 so far. Ooh, so I got 9 out of 10 correct responses there. Most of us put trends in population and lifestyle, which was indeed the correct answer. Well done. About B. Yeah, 92% is correct. Good. Yeah. 18%. Quite a lot, isn't it? Current research aims to increase the energy producing efficiency of coal by 92% got the correct answer. Developing new gasification techniques. Yeah. Extracting CO2 from it. Good guess, but not quite right. Number 4, compared to ordinary coal, new clean coals may generate power more cleanly and more efficiently. Is the answer. Effectively, sorry, yes, effectively. And to control dust at mine sites, mining companies often use, yes, runoff water containing sediments. Much more variation there. Why was that? Why did we get so much more variation there in the answers?
Well, in my case, it was because I just read like the first line of the paragraph and I tried to guess the answer because I got confused with the second part of because it said something related to water and I said, well, it's not connected to the idea. So
yes, so the answer is there in. Yeah, because it says the latter, meaning runoff, is treated and reused for dust suppression. If you look in the penultimate paragraph, that's where the answer is contained. The most suitable title, yes, is the coal industry and the environment. Yeah, not the greenhouse effect. Or even population growth. But that was A seemed like a close correct answer, didn't it? Yeah.
Now, the key there was the first 2 paragraphs. They didn't concentrate on coal. They're talking about greenhouse and they're talking about, so everything is related to the environment.
Yes, you're right. Because that's an important part of the first part of the article, isn't it? Good. No, we don't have too much time left. So, how do you prepare your students for teaching, developing reading sub-skills? Well, I guess those who've done courses like CELT and Delta will know about frameworks for developing reading skills. The classic pre, while, and post works effectively. Well, we've got an introduction that activates background knowledge or schemata, which is a top-down reading strategy. And then we've got perhaps some pre-teaching of vocabulary, which would be bottom-up. Helps the students to decode language in the text. So then we give them a purpose for reading, make it interesting and relevant, vary the strategies. Post, give them the chance to respond to the topics of the text, make them reflect on what they found hard in the text, and ask them maybe 3 things that they learned. Well, encourage students to combine top-down and bottom-up strategies and keep them engaged in the task. Now, if you only work on bottom-up, that will just encourage the students to try and read every word, and that's what we don't want them to do in the IELTS exam. How do I prepare students for a reading test? So develop task awareness, how long it lasts, number of parts, how long students have to do each part, tasks they can find in each part, how to answer the questions, and the length of the text. Strategies and skills, simplify the task, simplify the text, can help when you're trying to develop confidence initially. How can you simplify either the task or the text? Here are some ideas. So earlier in the preparation, you can use simpler tasks and reduce text until they get used to dealing with the whole thing. And then introduce exam conditions. Gradually approximate the class conditions to an exam room's conditions. So have them work individually, not providing any guidance, enter answers on a separate answer sheet. Improve the reading skills, so get them to distinguish between essential and non-key words, working out the meaning from context. And they can sometimes work out the meaning from the word form, using synonyms, prefixes, and so on. So just to summarize what we looked at in the masterclass, look at the title, make predictions, skim the text to get the general idea, read the test items, use specific procedures for each type of task. If they're struggling, encourage them to go on to the next question. Okay. Shall we finish with a quick Kahoot? See what you know about the reading paper. How many questions are there? 18. Yes, we've got time. For this, you'll need your phones. Let's begin. How many sections are there? Whether it's general training or academic, there are. Great. Easy, wasn't it? No. How much time on each question? Each section. 60 minutes in total? Yeah, 20 minutes because there are three and it's a 60 minutes. So yeah. Read the title of the passage. Yeah, that was the first thing. Yeah, because it's activating the background knowledge or schemata, right? And to do that, you need to read the title of the passage. It could be a headline. What should you do after you read the title? Yeah, read them in sets of questions, right? But the first set of questions, yeah? Not all the questions. So think of them as sections.
I have a head.
Now, true or false? Main idea by reading the first and last sentence. Yeah, true. Because the first sentence in the paragraph is usually the topic sentence, and often the final sentence kind of summarizes it. Yeah. Well done, Grace. Scanning for repeated words in a paragraph can also help you find the main idea. True. Yeah. Topic words in a true, false, not given. Yeah, these are like content words, aren't they? Like words that contain like nouns or proper nouns, not quantifiers in this case, or adverbs. Hmm? Detail words. Yeah, good. So these are more like quantifying words. Uh-huh. Good job. Yeah, locate the answer in the text. Hold on, Cesar. Detail words help you to yeah, like always or not, right? Those help you to get an idea of whether it's true, false, or not given. Gurney? Yeah. This is important that we need to be able to explain this to our students, right? Reading quickly to find specific words. Like you're reading a train timetable and you're trying to find when is the next time of the time of the next train to Querétaro, right? Like leaving tomorrow morning. So you read quickly and find it. Says, all right. Skimming. Yeah, general understanding. Yeah, so knowing about parts of speech can also help your students to deal with the question stems. Good job, adverb. I guess it's a word like rice or fish. It's a noun. Sure about that one. Sight is said to be useful and functional. Yeah, it's a countable noun, not an uncountable one, because if it was uncountable, it would be much. Many drones have been lost recently. 18. Basketball, football, nouns, yes, good. Okay, so who's the winner? Well done, Sergio. Abby. Well done, Cesar. No. What's the work you need to do for next week, for the next session? So for our next session on April 29th, because there's the Easter vacation. So you've got lots of time to do listening paper. And take the opportunity to catch up on other areas that maybe you didn't have chance to do because you were very busy. Such as the reading paper or even the introduction. And I'll give you another little task to do. Maybe you could do it for homework because you're going to have plenty of time. Send you this through the chat. I think I showed you this text last time, didn't I? We did the gist reading. But now there's some reading for detail questions. So perhaps you could do this as well, because this is particularly useful for the teaching part. Right? Talks about receptive skills lessons, the pre, while, and the post stages. I'll check your answers to that next time. So have a wonderful Easter. See you on the 29th of April.
Thank you very much. The same for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good evening.
Bye. Thank you.
And the video will be available on the platform as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.